Hello and welcome back to the Bird's Eye View podcast. We are here on Friday, April 11th, and the Toronto Blue Jays are coming off a near mopping of the Boston Red Sox. Game 4 goes Boston's way in an extra inning affair that had potentially some external factors impacting the results of that one. I'm your host, Zach Worden, joined as always by Jori Negin-Shecter. And Jori, how are we feeling after the Jays take 3 of 4 at Fenway?
I think that's huge. That's not a series the Blue Jays typically are all over. And to take 3 out of 4 from the Boston Red Sox, who are supposed to be this mighty up-and-comer squad, I don't know. Blue Jays hovering around the top of the division these days. It's early, but better to be 8-6 than 6-8.
It's funny because the series obviously, it comes in with all the Vlad hype and everything coming off of that, and then just the worst weather for baseball in Boston this week. And you watch the games, and neither team had much going offensively. Obviously, the last two games go to extras because neither team can really, slug all that much. I think George Springer's home run was the only one in the entire series. So I think really impressive for them to come out with 3 of 4. I know, you'd like to see a little bit more power. You'd like to see a couple more balls leaving the yard, but I think for the circumstances that they were facing in the series, to see them come out with those 3 wins and kind of grind them out, feels a little bit better than maybe the wins over the Nationals might have in terms of just the way that they won those games.
Well, I mean, the pitching itself has just been so electric, just every single game. Yesterday you get Chris Bassett pitching well. You get a Gosman start, a vintage Gosman start, incredible. You get Easton Lucas just absolutely dicing up the Red Sox, just you know, top to bottom. Just this pitching rotation, man. I can't believe how good it's been in the early going.
Well, let's talk about Easton Lucas because I think he is the most intriguing story of the week for the Blue Jays as far as a pitching perspective, because this is a guy who now has thrown 2 straight shutout starts, his first 2 big league starts ever, and he goes 5 innings, no runs allowed in either of them. Of course, the first one coming against the Nationals, and then he punches out 8 against the Red Sox this week. What do you think about Lucas? I mean, obviously he's filling in for Scherzer, and there'll be question marks about what happens with him. But for what they're getting out of him right now, I mean, is there any way that you can see him sticking around if all 5 of the Blue Jays original starting 5 are healthy?
Well, it seems like that might be the case, and maybe you just kick him to the bullpen because he's a lefty, right? And he still provides some value in
He's
that
the
way.
Ryan Yarbrough.
So to me, it's just been a win all around for the Jays, for Easton Lucas, and just an incredible story in the early going, like a left-handed Bowden Francis situation here. But that's a guy that I think I don't know if I'm on the record for the podcast. I certainly said it to people in my circle that, if Easton Lucas pitches meaningful innings for the Blue Jays, something has gone horribly wrong. Needless to say, maybe these aren't meaningful innings yet, but something has not gone horribly wrong. Everything has gone right for him. The strikeouts, especially against the Red Sox, racking up 8 Ks to me is nothing short of remarkable. And, again, like we'll see exactly how much of this he's able to sustain. He's not really generating much in the way of chase from guys, but he's still finding ways to get outs. Like this is maybe a guy that could be like a 4 or 5. And if you are concerned about the health of a Max Scherzer type, all of a sudden maybe have the opportunity to spot start Lucas in places and give Scherzer the time he needs because you're not panicking about a lack of pitching depth.
Yeah, I wonder if it's like one of those things. Like it's huge for this rotation to have him do what he's done so far, and I mean, we'll see. Obviously, I think his next start will come against the Orioles this week on Sunday, and like you mentioned, it's going to be interesting to see how it all kind of plays out. Like this, the strikeout percentage is obviously very nice, and the strikeouts have been good, and the walks have been kind of to an acceptable level. I think when you look at what he's been in the minor leagues, and obviously there's kind of been some tweaks, so maybe this won't be the case anymore. But it seems that the walk rates are a little bit lower than he's traditionally had. So you assume that maybe some of the command will take a step back going forward. But I think when you kind of look at what he's done, I mean, it's looks like it's been pretty sustainable, right? Like the chase rate is decent. The K rate is obviously good. I think you see a little bit of a step back in both of those numbers eventually, and he's not going to run a 167 BABIP all season long. But once you kind of account for that, I mean, his ERA goes from what, from 0 to 3.5. Like that's still a really really good option, and especially if you're going to be getting like a five and dive out of him, I think you can kind of run with it and see what he has. I think if he does end up filling like a Ryan Yarbrough role, I don't know necessarily how that would look um, from a guy like him, but I think this is a guy who's given you reason to kind of explore what he is as a pitcher going forward.
Yeah, that's the word I think that's really key here. Is just the opportunity to explore what he is, you know. Um, I think you look at him maybe like, 2, 3 weeks ago, and he's, a quad A type that you're not that interested in, and he's up and he's down. Now, like you said, there's reason to see what you can get out of him, and if there's room for opportunity for growth for him to be an effective starting pitcher at the major league level.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it speaks to how much they believe in him. The fact that he was still on the 40 man, right? Like he was one of these guys that they claimed off waivers late last year, and now he was the one that survived, right? Like I mean, Nick Robertson is gone. Michael Peterson is gone. There's just so many guys that we don't have to go through all of them. But like Easton Lucas is the one that survived. So I think that there is a level of belief from the Blue Jays with Easton Lucas, and I think you kind of look at the changeup, right? Like that's a pitch that he himself admitted wasn't very good, and now he's throwing it 20% of the time, and obviously way more against righties. So kind of having that pitch that lets him maybe be a little bit more effective against right-handed hitters is intriguing, right? Because obviously as a lefty, like you're going to be facing a lot of righties, especially as a starter. So if he's going to go through the rotation two times and just to kind of have that changeup be really effective is really important for him.
Yeah, clearly he needed that pitch, right? It's just that again, there, there's so little we know about Easton Lucas just because this version of Easton Lucas is different from the ones that we'd seen in the past. So I'm so hesitant to make any proclamations on exactly what to
I
expect,
want
on
you
exactly
to lay down a bold Easton Lucas take right now.
a bold Easton Lucas take.
Yeah.
Well, you know how I had said earlier in our bold predictions that Alec Manoah was going to be part of the playoff rotation? Um,
Uh,
Listen, like it's hard to make any big proclamations on the guy because he's 2 starts in, but I really think, I mean, the Orioles are going to be a really, really, really good test. They do have some lefties, so he should, in theory, fare
yeah.
okay. Um, he's positioned to have some success in theory against the Orioles, but with that said, the Orioles, the Red Sox are a team with some sluggers. They're not the Orioles. The Nationals, goes without saying, are not the Orioles. This is going to be a good test for him. We're going to see exactly what he's able to put together here. And if he does make that Sunday afternoon start and it comes together and he pitches 5 innings and gives up 1 or 2 runs and he has another strong start, like this is a guy that you keep riding.
Let me read you some interesting numbers as I've gone through the pages here. His changeup against righties so far this year, 36.4% whiff rate, like really, really, really good. The changeup, 179 WOBA against 200 average against, all against righties. And then his fastball has played really, really well against righties too. Like his fastball, a .063 average against righty, a .93 WOBA against righties, and he's only given up one hit in 17 plate appearances
How
against
much of
righties
that?
with his fastball.
I don't know if this is information we'd be able to access, but I'd imagine that the ex-WOBA stuff there is probably a little
You
different.
notice that I didn't include that. It's still not good though. The ex Woba against this is all right-handed hitters. The ex Woba against his fastball is 208, and against the changeup it's 315. So a little bit better there, but also like the average launch angle on His changeup, again, from right-handed hitters, is 5 degrees. So
Yeah, so
like
he's
he's
generating a
getting
lot
that
of like
hard
bad
contact on the
contact.
ground, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, it's intriguing, and I think that you can kind of see the formula for um something decent to come out of that. I think it's just if you're going to keep him in the rotation, how he fares against right-handers is going to be very, very important.
Yeah, it's going to be paramount to his success. And I wonder because, like he's throwing, low 90s. I think he's sitting around like 92-ish. Like this is not a prototypical starting pitcher type. I wonder what kind of comparable guys have had success at the big league level that he can kind of look to in terms of pitch mix, in terms of velocity, in terms of the way his stuff kind of plays. There's definitely, listen, there's guys with the Blue Jays that are smarter than me that see a lot of XYZ in him. And I have no doubt that that's kind of the mold they're looking for. But I'm curious if this is the type of archetype that can be successful.
Yeah, I was trying to do that. I was trying to find somebody with like a similar velo band that, is kind of a change up esque type guy, and I wasn't really able to come up with many great examples. Like I think Eduardo Rodriguez was kind of an interesting one. Obviously, it's interesting because they keep comparing him to Cole Hamels, right, with his mechanics because he has very similar mechanics to Cole Hamels, and I don't think that Easton Lucas is going to be Cole Hamels. I think that's maybe a little bit of a stretch, but like I mean, if he is very consistent. With his mechanics, right? Like I think you watch it, it's very consistent, it looks good. I mean, it's tough almost not to look good as a lefty. But I think, if you can kind of get this Bowden Francis run out of him, and kind of keep him successful in what he's done so far, I think, you can feel pretty good about that.
Yeah, exactly that, right? Like, obviously you want guys that are punching out the world, and you've got that in a Kevin Gosman. But if he can continue to induce soft contacts, then there's no reason to believe he can't be productive at the major league level.
Yeah, let's move on. I mean, speaking of guys who have punching out the world, I think, one of the more impressive performances this week was from the Blue Jays bullpen. I know the last game, obviously, some stuff goes awry, wild pitch, error, just the way that the 10th inning played out. But I think you look at the other extra inning game, and I mean, Jeff Hoffman, man, what a what an outing that was for him.
That guy is a dog.
Some
Jeff Hoffman is
emotion.
a dog. That guy, the little, getting
He's like
hype,
he putting the Red
a
Sox on
little
his back.
spice, a little
Yeah.
spice on it. This is a guy. This is a, I don't, there was a lot of calls for Jordan Romano's head over the years in terms of, oh, he's not a real closer. Oh, this guy is not a real, dog. He's not, he doesn't have it. And, the lollipop charts, excluding last year, have been kind to Romano to say the least. He's been a good, effective closer. And I've been a pretty strong Romano defender. I've never felt like he was a guy that wasn't capable of being a big league closer. I've never felt like he wasn't a guy that wasn't capable of showing up at the big moments. But holy smokes, Jeff Hoffman is a different animal.
Yeah, it's so funny from last year where, the bullpen just has no swing and miss at all. And this year, like Jimmy Garcia's looked great, Jeff Hoffman's looked great. Like just having those two guys, it's just such a huge difference. And obviously they had Jimmy Garcia to begin last year as well, but it's just kind of different when you're able to go from Jimmy to Hoffman instead of Jimmy to Chad Green. Like
It's a
there's just
completely different set of circumstances.
it's crazy just how easier it is to watch games, right? And for, John Schneider, I'm sure he's, ecstatic when he walks out to the mound and be like, yeah, Jeff Hoffman, 2 innings. We got you for the ninth and the 10th instead of last year where he's like, all right, Zach Pop.
Hoping a prayer.
Yeah, it's crazy to see. And I mean, I think when you look at the rest of the bullpen too. I mean, obviously the Sandlin thing happened, but I think for the most part, like it's been all right. It's not, you know, it hasn't been last year bad. It hasn't been 2023 good. It's been decent, I would say.
Yeah, well, here's the thing is that because of how bad the bullpen was last year, the margin for error is almost bigger just because, all things considered, all things equal, if you can get a bullpen that's, 50% better, then in theory, if you get comparable offensive production, comparable starting pitching production, you're picking up a number of wins. And then you take into account that the hitting early on has been, I would say, I would give it a passing grade. I wouldn't give it an A plus or anything, but I would say, generally speaking, save for the lack of power, that it's been good. And the power I think is going to come. You're not going to continue to see this lack of power from Vlad. You're not going to see this continued lack of power from Santander.
No.
But in addition to the the almost inevitable hot streak you're going to get from those guys, um, the pitching has just, top to bottom, really been, I think, impressive.
Let me give you an interesting stat from the Blue Jays bullpen last year to the Blue Jays bullpen this year. Last year, swinging strike rate, the Blue Jays bullpen ranked 29th in baseball, 10.3%. The Braves had the highest at 13.2%. This year, the Blue Jays rank number one at 14.9%.
That's Jeff Hoffman right there. That's Jeff Hoffman and Jimmy Garcia for the whole season, hopefully. But that's an enormous change.
It's crazy like just how much like getting strikeouts completely changes the outlook for your bullpen.
100%. Like, listen, you can work with Easton Lucas types, Bowden Francis types, to an extent, Chris Bassett types. Although he's had a really nice start to the year and he's been racking up the Ks.
Yeah.
But guys that aren't necessarily going to strike out the world. I mean, Jose Barrios as well, who, by the way, he also had a great outing. Wasn't like electric by any means. I think it was like two strikeouts, three walks. So, the ratio wasn't great, but he pitched deep and he pitched well and he limited the damage. But I digress. With starters, you can get that kind of production. With the bullpen in these high leverage spots where you don't have the room to give up a sac fly or the room to give up, a leadoff double. Like, that ability to generate swings and misses, to strike guys out, is so paramount. And that's exactly what the Jays have done.
Yeah, it's funny because like Brendan Little is actually leading the bullpen in swinging strike rate. Um, which is really interesting to me. Like he's, I know the ERA isn't good there, but you kind of look at like everything else that he's brought this year. Obviously, the home runs, um, he's given up the one home run kind of has his home runs per nine a little bit high. But like I mean, when you look at it, like he's striking out 37% of the hitters he faced. And again, you know what? Small sample size for all of this, but what are we going to talk about after the first three series of the year, the first four series of the year? It's going to be small samples, and what Brendan Little has done has been really big, I think, as well, and kind of, should cast forward well. And like a guy like that is really big as well. I know I kind of said Hoffman and Garcia have been really good, which yes, obviously is true. But kind of having like the rest of those guys as well, kind of be able to support them is going to be really important going forward. And I think like Little and Sandlin, um, the results have kind of here and there, but I think what they have done, like the underlyings, at least does show that there is like hopefully going to be more consistent results going forward.
Yeah. You know what? We did this, I think, last week. Let's turn this into a bit of like a weekly segment here, get a little Lion King theme, it's the circle of trust. Let's get into that a little bit. And maybe we'll do this every once in a while. But let's talk a little circle of trust here. Jeff Hoffman, Jimmy Garcia, who else?
I would put Little in there. I would put I think I'd put Sandlin in there. Where I know last night you obviously you sent a message in the chat about Nick Sandlin. Where are you at on Nick Sandlin?
I don't know. I mean, after last night, I'm so down on him, but he up until that point had been really effective. And I think he pitched in the back-to-back games, right? So like
Yeah.
obviously there's some
And
wear and
he
tear,
also
so to
he
speak.
gets like the one call, and we haven't mentioned the umpire at all. But he gets the one call on Cassis that should have been called
Yeah,
strike
that was
three. And
really
so,
tough.
like honestly, to me, that was probably the worst call of the game.
Yeah,
Just looking at it, obviously the umpire scorecard came out. You can go look at that. Once again, I'll just say ban K zones on TV. Um, but
challenge system.
I
Challenge
think
system.
Sandlin, um, yeah, like the walks have been really bad so far. So I think I'll have him in the circle of trust right now, but he's kind of like, if you look at it like a like an archery target, like he's on the outer third of the circle of trust, and like Hoffman and Garcia are directly in the middle.
Yeah, those guys are the bullseyes. Yeah, I think you've got it right there. I think it's probably I'll say right now, I'll go obviously Hoffman Garcia and I'll just stick with Little for now.
How about Chad Green?
Uh like
So Chad Green, 32% K rate so far this year, 8% walk rate.
but I feel like he hasn't really pitched in a big spot this year. I mean, maybe I'm just forgetting some stuff, but I feel like and this is partly, for good reason. But they've really bumped down his leverage spots in the early going. And it's made the whole bullpen better. Like it's good that they've done so, but
Yeah, I can hold on.
it's hard to
We
put
can
them.
there are numbers. I can look up
There are
the
numbers.
leverage indexes to show where we're at
Well,
here.
maybe I'm wrong, but it definitely doesn't feel like
Yeah,
Green has been a
so
guy that they've tossed into big spots this year, and it's helped him and it's helped the Blue Jays that they've been able to rely on guys like Jeff Hoffman and Jimmy Garcia instead of turning to Chad Green in the ninth inning
yeah.
trying to hold a one-run lead.
Yeah, so the guys who have pitched in the highest leverage are Nick Sandlin, which I'm sure a lot of that comes from last night, Jimmy Garcia, Brendan Little, Jeff Hoffman, those are top four.
That makes sense. That all sounds about right.
And Chad Green is seventh of the nine relievers the Blue Jays have
Well, here,
used this year.
rhyme off the. Just give me the bang them
All
out.
right,
Just one
so
thing.
it's Sandlin, Jimmy, Little, Hoffman, Lovelady, Fluharty, Green, Yariel, Barnes.
I find it quite funny that um, they put Fluharty in more leverage spots than
Well,
Yariel.
we haven't had this conversation yet. Obviously we're I am at least pretty pro Fluharty. Um, But the way that they deployed him in
They
his
have made
first
this
two
guy's
outings,
life
like
so
that was not
difficult.
okay. Like you're bringing him in that Orioles series or in the National Series, tying run on third, and he's got C.J. Abrams at the plate, and like I mean, it's his first MLB outing,
Yeah.
and then he
Hey
gives
kid,
up the
welcome to the
double.
show.
Yeah,
Get your stuff together.
and then his second outing, game like I think he was tying run on second, go ahead run on second, Juan Soto at the plate. I'm like, well, come on. I was intrigued by that one because like Fluharty cutter sweeper guy, right? And Juan Soto, I was looking, he has like a 500 xWOBA against left-handed sweepers in his career.
Yeah, like that's maybe not the best spot to put the kid. I don't know. Like I feel like you're gonna get some regression maybe isn't the word. Like there's gonna be a swing where there's gonna be some lower leverage spots that he'll
Yeah.
get the opportunity to get
I
into.
mean,
They have not made his life easy.
yeah, I guess to be fair, like you bring him up and it's like, he's gonna have to get those guys out eventually in those spots. So kind of learning experience. I think, you would like to ease him in a little bit more. But the fact that we've only seen him three times since he got called up, I mean, he obviously lost a little bit of confidence in when he can be used.
Yeah, which is unfortunate, but I don't fault him. I really don't.
Yeah, I think he's thrown two major league innings in three outings.
Yeah. I think that there's still plenty of time to learn a little bit more about him.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. All right, that was a lot of bullpen talk. The rotation. I don't think we need to go too hard on the rest of them. Bassett was great. Gossman was great. Obviously Barrios was really solid as well. Like you mentioned as well. Any of those guys like you specifically want to dive into or anything?
I don't want to dive into any of them specifically, and I don't have the stat offhand. I really should. But if you take away Barrios's first start, if I recall correctly, number one ERA in all of baseball by starting rotation. and you'll have to give me a moment to find the numbers if I can. And I do think I will be able to, but you'll just have to give me a
I think they
moment.
might be. I mean, I can kind of talk through it, but I think they might be number one even with that start because they've the rotation has just been exceptional, right? Like I mean, you kind of
It's
look at
been
the runs given up since basically opening day, and they've given up more than two runs in a game, like three times I think it was.
this is from yesterday. So this is the most up-to-date number that I've got. And it's not league-wide, mind you, but it should still paint the picture pretty well. This is from Sportsnet Stats, our good friend Steve Fallon. Love Steve. Blue Jays 2.48 starting rotation ERA is the lowest in franchise history. That's franchise history through 14 games. The previous mark, 2.51 in 1984. So
Yeah.
this is literally the best the starting rotation has ever been through 14 games for the Toronto Blue Jays. That is really, really impressive stuff.
Yeah, so that is through yesterday's game, which ranks second in baseball. The Mets are the only one that's been lower, but the Blue Jays have also thrown 20 more innings than the Mets have, so really impressive there. Um, I would be intrigued to see what it would be since opening day. Um, can you guess the Blue Jays starting rotation ERA if you take away Barrios' opening day start?
Is it sub two?
It is.
Oh my goodness
It's
gracious. Is it?
1.92.
Wow, this is not sustainable. Like I'm not gonna pretend that this is gonna last, but wow, that is some good stuff. How about I don't know if you're gonna be able to find this quickly, but you want to pull up the FIP leaderboards by starting rotation if you can, because I'd be curious how much of this is them getting a little BABIP-y, which they probably are, and I want to know
Do
how
you
much of
do,
this
do you want opening
is
day included or no?
let's exclude opening day. Let's give the Jays the benefit of that one.
If you're not including opening day, their starting rotation ranks fifth in FIP with
That's
3.07.
that's still really nice. That's
Yeah.
still really, really nice. Like
If
this
you
is an elite rotation
if you
potential.
include opening day, there's still seventh. I mean, there's the matter of like they just haven't really been giving up runs.
Yeah. It's been incredibly, incredibly encouraging to watch. We'll see. Listen, like you get the cold weather, so the Red Sox aren't really slugging off you, and that's probably gonna change when the weather warms up. And you get the Nationals, who are not a good hitting team, regardless of if it's plus 20 or minus 20 out there.
Yeah.
But this has been a really, 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 really good stretch from the Jays rotation, and it looks like they are a legit, like, top third of the league rotation quality team.
Yeah, and I think the concern was that they would all kind of have like some negative regression from kind of where they'd settled, right? Like with age and stuff. But I think that the one thing that this rotation does really well is like you have your strikeout guys in like Gossman, and then the rest of them are just like they have such wide arsenals and they're just really smart, right? Like it just seems like there is um I hate like being like a pitchability and like a pitcher versus a thrower guy, but like there is a matter of that with these guys, right? Like Bassett being who he is, like we've come to know him as like this mad scientist out there on the mound. Like Barrios has kind of got a little bit of that to him there, and I think it was really impressive the way he bounced back from what happened to him on opening day. Bowden Francis is like a product of all of them. I know Keegan wrote the story during spring training that was really good and really informative about like what Bowden Francis has kind of taken away from each of the different starters. And then you have Easton Lucas who we talked about him already. So I think the rotation, yeah, it's really impressive, and we'll see as it warms up. But I think as it warms up as well, the Blue Jays offense will start to come around as well. So you won't be sweating out 2-1 wins or 3-4 losses or anything like that as hopefully the offense does kind of figure itself out.
Yeah, like let's because we had talked before we hit the record button. Maybe we should discuss this. This episode of the Bird's Eye View podcast is brought to you by BioSteel. Use code Bird's Eye View at checkout for 20% off your order at biosteel.ca. Again, that's code Bird's Eye View at checkout for 20% off your order. For all your high performance hydration needs, visit biosteel.ca. Thank you again to BioSteel for sponsoring today's episode. I want to talk a little bit about the lack of power from newly minted $500 million man Vladdy Guerrero Jr. and the slow start from Anthony Santander.
Yeah, how concerned are you about the Santander stuff?
I'd be remiss if I didn't say there wasn't a degree of concern because he's not really hitting the ball very hard. Feels like he's striking out at a pretty high clip. Like this has not looked very good for him, and it's a little strange. He's
It's weird to me because like the slow starter thing is obviously a real thing with him, right? Like you look at his career splits and in April he is like a 209 hitter in his career, right? And but he's hitting 185 right now. Um but it's weird to me because it's like, as soon as the calendar turns to May 1st, is he fixed? Like what how does that necessarily work? Like are you just lost until May 1st, or is it just him? I mean, obviously it's just him kind of getting caught up in everything, but um I just think it's really interesting to see like just kind of that general flip that he's had throughout his career, and I'm sure like we're gonna see it. But I think when you look at like for his career, he's an 83 WRC plus hitter in April, and this year he's a 56. So it's been like below what he generally
it's
has
been it's
been in
been
that
bad.
season.
Like there's no other way to put it. It's been Tony
Yeah.
Taters has been Tony two strikes, three strikes, you're out.
Tony
It's
Tony single in the first inning and then
yeah. So like he's gonna have to get better than this. Like that's obviously goes without saying he's gonna have to improve. I just don't
DEFCON
really.
scale. What's the DEFCON on
Uh,
Anthony Santander?
are we saying like one is like your DEFCON one is it's a disaster and DEFCON five it's where what are we how are we I'm not much of a
Yeah,
DEFCON guy so I don't know what's
the
what.
DEFCON
Here's
levels. DEFCON 1 is nuclear war is imminent, and DEFCON 5 is like normal.
listen, nuclear war is pretty bad. So I feel like you've got to be like literally like George Springer in the middle of the season last year to be like DEFCON 1. Although mind you, clearly that wasn't
So
over as they're saying on Twitter, Unk has still got it. But
here's a good description of where I'm at as far as DEFCON levels. Like so DEFCON 4, it says Intel watch increased security measures strengthened.
that's
So you're
that's that
watching.
sounds right.
You're kind of like it says
We
the
are we are observing right now. We
you're
are we
doing
are
you're doing a double take at his numbers
exactly.
right now.
There's a bit of normally the eyes emoji is associated with good things. I'm gonna say there's a bit of an eyes emoji here with maybe some
Yeah.
less good things. But we'll see. Still early. Still early. Not even
It
not
is.
even halfway through April.
No, they're 14 games into the year,
Yeah, they're
which
they're not
is
even 10% in.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. They're just over 8% of the way through the season. So,
Yeah, if this was a Major League Baseball game, we would still be, I think, in the top of the first inning. Like it's very, very early.
yeah. The rest of them though. I mean, I think we can get into Springer a little bit, but I think we can maybe, kind of finish off with the guys who have had slower starts. I mean, obviously Bo was so good, but the power just kind of hasn't been there, and I think that's something that'll come. But I think I was looking earlier, and he is one of the leaders for ex-WOBA minus WOBA, so one of the unluckier hitters in baseball so far. And he's still getting on base at a pretty good clip. And same thing with Vladdy too, right? Like Vladdy, he's still 355 on base and just hasn't hit for power.
Yeah, I'm quite encouraged by Bo, honestly. The ex-Woba numbers. This is Bo Bichette again. Um, I don't know. I don't know if it's that he's healthy now. I don't know if it's that he's just feeling better up there, but he looks like Bo Bichette again, which I think is enormous, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, it's huge. And obviously, he's not he's gotten like, I think of the leadoff catch that Rafaela made on him. That was like a 5-star catch, right? So like under 5% catch or 5% catch probability. Um, and just kind of stuff like that. Like he's been scorching the ball. So we're not worried there. Vladdy, I mean, we kind of saw it last year. Hopefully, I kind of going in, it felt like a certainty that he was going to hit a home run on the day after the extension. But yeah, I mean, again, same thing. Like he's still hitting the ball hard. He's still getting
It'll
on
it'll
base.
it'll come. It feels like it'll come. It would be pretty surprising if it didn't.
Yeah. Hitting on them quick. Who are you most concerned for out of the following group? Alejandro Kirk, Davis Schneider, Ernie Clement. Let me read you their WRC pluses. Ernie Clement, WRC plus 1. Davis Schneider, WRC plus 3. Alejandro Kirk, WRC plus 47.
It's funny because I was gonna say Kirk because of the contract extension, but he's literally like 30 to 40 times better than both of these dudes.
The thing is with Kirk is like he's more important than to the team than either
Oh
of those
yeah.
guys are.
I you know what? I'm gonna say Ernie Clement of that group. I think that he's a guy that a lot of people had penciled in as an opening day, or rather a regular third baseman,
Don't go
as like
back and
a
listen to our bold predictions, please.
yeah, yeah, it's just not. Yeah, Ernie Clement is a guy I think that the Jays expected a little bit of production out of. And as one, Blue Jays reporter loves to say, it's early, but he's got to be better than this, I think. I think that the results have not matched the expectations. Now, mind you, he's still arbitration, like he's still just kind of a, bottom of the lineup type. And this is not a guy that you're expecting a lot of production out of. Same cannot be said for Alejandro Kirk, but I still feel that of that group, the most concern is with Ernie Clement.
Yeah, I think with Ernie, the thing is like his strikeout rate is doubled from last year, which is obviously an issue. But the walk rate as well has also gone up for a guy who walked only 11 times in 452 plate appearances last year. He already has four this year. But kind of like with the profile that he is, like he's going to be susceptible to the ebbs and flows of BABIP, right? Like he's going to, you know, be very it's either going to be a hit or it's not. And it's, obviously the things haven't been a hit for him. And if he's striking out as much as he is, then that makes those down stretches even worse. So I'm not like super concerned about him, but you can kind of see the playing time being taken away from him there. So
Yeah. And there's options to replace him. That's a big thing too. Like
yeah,
Will Wagner and even to a lesser extent, but a guy like a Barger in AAA who's been raking right
yeah,
now. If you want to go this place, you could think about like a Relvis Martinez, even though he's not really a third baseman at this point, but there are options at third base.
yeah.
The catching position is not the same.
Schneider, he's still walking. He doesn't have a hit yet. I saw he doesn't have a hit since last September.
I mean,
47% K rate right now.
uh, it really sucks. I really wish that he was good. It really feels
I
like
think there's still a chance, but I think there's just so much pressure being put on himself right now.
there
Like
must
that,
be.
like
There's
there's,
no other explanation.
yeah. And, you can feel it too in like the at-bats where he gets screwed by an ump, right? Where it's kind of like, well, this guy doesn't need that right now. Like help him out. Um, it's tough. And, I don't want to like call for anybody to be sent down or anything like that, but I just do wonder like how much consistent playing time would be good for him right now.
Yeah, I feel like it's not it's too early to be sending him down. Just again, not even I did the math, you know. Like I said, the if this were a 9 inning game, I did the math. We're 4 outs in. It's early.
Yeah.
Um, but I do agree that this is a guy that probably could use some regular time, either at second base, either at left field, just for him to find a rhythm. And then you bring him back and put him back into the fold, right? Because this has just not been effective baseball from him.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to some more positive stuff. Do you want to start with MVP George Springer
Yes.
or Tyler Heineman?
Yes, let's talk George. It is the summer. It's not quite summer yet. It's the summer of George. The man that was promised. You imagine we get a full healthy season of this version of George Springer, which, by the way, please ignore the 600 BABIP that he's currently rocking. I don't know if he's still rocking that. It was as of
552.
like, okay, so it's come back to earth in the very limited sense of the term. George Springer has been the Blue Jays' best hitter, and I don't think that's really up for debate right now, which is an insane comment to make 2 weeks in, and it's not going to last. Don't kid yourself. This is not going to last. But holy crap, George Springer, have yourself a month.
By WRC plus, he's the third best hitter in baseball right now.
By batting average, he leads the league, if I recall correctly.
That is correct. By actually a significant margin too.
This is a guy that's raking right now, and it's not going to last. I feel
I
like I said
mean,
that before, and I'm going to say it again. But this is a
xWOBA
dude
though.
that's Do
It's
you think George?
444.
Do
I mean,
you think George? Let's hit the pause button. George Springer is not going to have a 95th percentile xWOBA. I think it would be super funny if he did. It's not gonna happen. Let's just put that out there right now.
yes, I would agree. It's interesting though because like obviously, you tweeted the pull percentage, right? Like he's pulling the ball in the air a ton. Um, for a guy who had like kind of seen his pull numbers slip a little bit, really encouraging to kind of see those creep up a little bit. And but also like I mean again, I remember I wrote an article last year like after opening weekend and I was like, "Oh, George Springer is on Twitter because he's pulling the ball a lot more and that's what everybody wanted him to do." And then he ends up basically repeating 2023 as far as like career low pull rates. Um, but I do wonder like if there is, kind of that emphasis on pulling the ball again.
It seems like that's something that Popkins has implemented because if you look around the Blue Jays, that seems like something like a lot of these guys are at or above careers or career high numbers. Um, you can, run down the whole starting nine pretty much. And like pretty consistently, guys are pulling the ball more than they have in the past. Jimenez is another example of a guy that's, I mean, there was the talk earlier. I think it was Mike Petriello that tweeted it out that he's really shuffled around his stance in the box and it's allowed him to pull the ball in the air at a significantly higher clip. And now he's rocking an OPS over 800, right? So they're clearly trying to do that. They're clearly trying to actively pull the ball in the air more. And there's been some benefactors in the name of George Springer, in the name of Andres Jimenez, and I don't doubt that those aren't the only guys.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you kind of look at Springer and just like the bat speed hasn't like taken a step forward. It's actually been a little bit slower on average than it was last year, which is really interesting. But I mean, I mean, yeah, no duh, everything has been better based on the results that he's gotten, right? Like you look at his baseball savant page and it's like just so much red. Um, and again, it's so early that it's really tough to like really read into to any of this stuff. But I do wonder kind of like what the approach changes there. Like if he's getting a little bit more aggressive, like swinging harder, or like just swinging with a little bit more intent, even if the bat speed is a little bit slower. It's something that I hope that we do kind of find out in the next little while here.
Yeah, I would imagine that'll come down the pipeline eventually. But there's so much, I think, to learn about what he's done. And I would be super curious exactly what's allowed him to be so effective. Vernon Wells retweeted a side by side of him swinging. He looks the same. There's not that much of a difference.
Yeah, I think it was like his hands are starting in a different position is kind of like the general takeaway.
It seems so minimal. It seems like it's like a fraction of an inch.
It's amazing, hey, like the baseball mechanics and just how much like just a little thing can throw you off. Like even Romano, I saw yesterday that the Phillies tweaked something in his mechanics that had him throwing like 3 miles per hour harder.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You got anything else on George? I mean, I like right now he's the best player on the team. I think he's, top 15 in baseball in WAR right now. Just really been, huge for him, for a guy that obviously needed it, and a guy who I don't think anybody saw this coming.
No, nobody could. And if they told you they did, they were lying.
Yeah. Tyler Heineman. What are your thoughts on the magician?
But I don't know. He's been really good. I don't know what to say. It's like, holy smokes, Tyler Heineman. This is arguably an even more fun story, I think, than Springer's because Tyler Heineman has never hit ever, and all of a sudden he's been a guy with is his OPS still over one? It was for a while there.
It is.
And
It's 1.249.
it's like I don't know how he's doing it either, but he is, and he's been really successful in doing so. This is also not going to last, but just
I was
little
I was listening to Blair and Barker on the post game Jays talk yesterday, and one of the callers called in and was like, "Man, it's going to be tough not to have Heineman as the starting catcher going forward."
I feel like that's premature.
After they give Kirk this extension, what a wild turn of events it would be if like Heineman outplayed Kirk after the extension.
I
I
if
don't think
that
that'll happen.
if that happens, I drank pickle juice one time, I'll do it again.
um, Heineman's WOBA right now is 544, and his ex WOBA is 337.
Yeah, that's kind of tells the whole story.
All right. Well, as they kind of head to Baltimore for this series now, I don't think we have to like preview game by game or anything, but what are like the most important storylines that you're going to be watching for this weekend?
Easton Lucas for sure. That's a Sunday story, but that's definitely it.
Yeah.
And just the rotation, I think, as a whole, right? Weather's not going to be that much nicer in Baltimore. It might be a little warmer, but certainly isn't going to be tropical Florida weather by any means. So, seeing if the rotation can continue to have success and some power would be nice. Some
A
power from
home run or two.
somebody, anybody,
Yeah.
not named George Springer, would be really, really, really nice.
Yeah, I think right there with you. Obviously, two home runs in the series. Think that's a good goal. And we'll see what Easton Lucas and Bound Francis have cooking up. It'll be uh it'll be good to see. One other thing I did want to shout out before we before we got out of here is the success of some of the Blue Jays pitchers that we've seen. Obviously Cal Steven has been great. Sorry, Blue Jays pitching prospects that we've seen. Cal Steven's been great. Obviously Trey Savage had his pro debut. Kind of weird in the French or the all-time minor league walk record game with 22 for the DJs, and then obviously the Jays also issued I think 10 of their own. But other than that, I mean the minor league pitchers have been really exceptional to start the year, at least below AAA. And for we kind of went into the year talking about like storylines that are important for the organization as a whole, and the pitching development and success of some of these minor league arms was something that we pinpointed. So obviously, great start for them there.
I think of that group, the Cal Stevens stuff is super duper duper encouraging. I'm quite excited. I mean, he's had two really nice starts now,
Yeah.
and seems like he's a guy that's going to fast track through the minor leagues.
He's like
Do I
he's
dare say he could be a back end top 100 by the end of the year?
Yeah, like that's tough because it's funny. He's gotten like so buried by all the Trey Savage hype. But he, it's second round pick. Like there's a chance he's like a poor man Trey Savage, but he's pitched better through two starts. So, I think top 100 would be tough just based on the way that they make those lists, right? Like he's a little bit older as well. But I think that, he's a guy who whatever you think about Trey Savage, he's right there with him as far as like moving quick and probably finishing the year in Double A if all things go right.
Yeah, I'd say exactly that, right? Let me ask you because you are the guy that's been all over the Blue Jays minor league system in the early goings. Like, what have you seen? What are you most excited about out of this early group?
Yeah, it's definitely Cal Steven. Like I think his performances have been great. I think Jaron Watts Brown having a really good outing was really great, and I think just seeing like All these guys that they drafted having good starts. Jackson Wentworth at Vancouver, Austin Case at Dunedin, like they all threw, 5 innings, no shut or no runs allowed, bunch of punch outs. I think just really encouraging that they hit the ground running for a group of prospects that really hasn't had guys who have like from day one kind of come in and performed well. I think you think of like Landon Morotis, Arjun Amala even, right? Like these guys who kind of start their careers a little bit slow. I think having some guys who are on this trajectory instead of like, and obviously, you know what, all minor league careers are kind of up and down, but for, all these guys to kind of have like the direct up arrow to start is really encouraging.
It's big. It's definitely big. The Jays need it. The 27th ranked system, I think, by pipeline, and it can't be much better across the board. It's huge. It is enormous, especially if they intend to buy at the deadline.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. If they end up in a position where they need to buy, I think having more guys who can backfill the guys that you trade for would be a nice development for sure. Any other thoughts as they head into Baltimore here?
I think we've about covered it. I think it's a big series just because it's a bit of a litmus test here. And the Orioles, even though they're below the Jays in the standings, still remain the Baltimore Orioles. So be a good opportunity to see what you got here against a good opponent.
Yes, 100%. Big series to kind of quell, I would say, some doubts that the opening series may have created. All right. Well, that is going to do it for us here today at the Bird's Eye View Podcast. Make sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons if you're watching on YouTube. You can find us there at the Bird's Eye View Podcast. If you're listening along on the podcast provider of your choice, make sure to drop a follow and review. You can follow us all on Twitter. I'm at Worden_Zach. Jori is at Jori Negin-Shecter. And the pod is at BEV_pod. Thanks so much for listening and enjoy the games this weekend.